To open up my review of the Qualcomm Toq smartwatch, guys, please! The pronunciation is Toq, like TikTok, not Toq, at least until they release a Bob Marley edition. The number of people who have said that to me. The Cooler Master Glacier 240L CPU cooler delivers the convenience of an all-in-one and the performance of a custom water cooler. Click now to learn more. All right, so front and center on the Toq is the 1.55-inch Mirasol display with a responsive, accurate glass touchscreen that was much more difficult to scratch than the plastic one on my Pebble. The main selling points of Mirasol are its power efficiency, its visibility in direct sunlight, and the fact that it's color rather than monochrome. All in all, it is an exceptional technology, and I'm very excited to see next generation e-readers and other smart devices that use it. I do think Qualcomm's marketing materials have oversold it a bit though. They're working on refining it, but for now the colors, while present, are not nearly as vibrant as the promotional videos would have you believe. Now when it comes to performance, Qualcomm isn't really talking about the hardware inside, but booting it up is fast, navigation is snappy, so I guess I don't really care what processor is inside or how much RAM it has. More important to me is power efficiency. And I got similar battery life on my Toq as I did on my Pebble with its black and white display, so you can color me impressed there. Pun intended. My only issue with the battery life is that I really don't know how it would compare if the backlight behaved the way that I want it to. Among the glaring omissions in Qualcomm's companion Android app is any kind of meaningful backlight behavior adjustment. You can set the double tap speed, and the timeout time, but brightness control is missing, as is accelerometer-based activation like the Pebble's wrist flick, and there's also no option to have the backlight illuminate automatically when a notification is received. Instead, if it's dark out, I actually have to manually turn on the backlight. It might seem like a minor complaint, but if you consider how prominently the always-on nature of the display, so you can glance at your wrist and see what's on it at any time, featured in Qualcomm's marketing, it's obvious that they understand the importance of not needing to touch it or do some contrived gesture in order to read it, so hopefully that'll be added soon. So let's talk everyday use. The included wireless charging dock, see, it unfolds like that, is a big plus. It uses Y-Power LE, which boasts support for multiple devices at the same time and with a larger charging field compared to Qi. The clock flips 90 degrees, making it easy to read on your bedside table. And honestly, the only thing missing here is, again, a backlight thing, is the option to keep the backlight on when it's charging so it can completely replace the clock on my nightstand. The fact that it's waterproof is also great. I actually didn't know that yet when I was giving the baby a bath one night and I realized I was wearing it. So panic moment there, but to my relief, it is indeed waterproof. It's also definitely a head turner. I get a lot of people asking me about it, which is fun for technophiles. With the Pebble, people are like, what the heck is that? Whereas with this, people are like, oh, that's cool, what is that? And I mean, as much as that might have something to do with my Pebble being bright orange, either way, you know, I gotta give credit where credit is due. People liked it, they asked about it, and it's fun. The vibrate is both easy to feel and not unnecessarily loud. As I said before, it's very responsive, which leads us to the main menu. Each icon on the main screen represents an applet, which is their name for an app. There aren't really many available, but what is there works pretty well. There's weather, stock checking, message log, call history, and of course, music control, which I used a lot. Navigation is super intuitive, just swipe from the sides when you want to go back or forward, and I really liked being able to go back into my notification history much more easily than with my Pebble, where things just kind of seemed to disappear. There is one thing I noticed that must be a bug though. Individual emails show up and you can click on them and read the email. When you have multiple emails that arrive at around the same time, you are stuck with just a preview of both of them and you can't click further to read the actual emails. That is absolutely brutal. I should be able to just tap to see the whole thing, not be stuck at the screen staring at a couple of different subject lines. The only complaint I really have physically then is that for me, it's just not very comfortable. The clasp, which contains the battery, is bulky enough to be uncomfortable when I'm typing, and the wrist strap sizing just didn't quite work well for me. On the fourth hole, it was floppy and all over the place over the bones in my wrist, but on the third hole, it's a bit tight, and it also actually sits a little crooked on my wrist. This would be less of a concern if it was possible to readjust sizing through trial and error, but Qualcomm's completely insane approach to sizing requires the user to actually physically cut the non-replaceable strap to size. So you gotta get it right the first time, or it's gonna be too small and I don't know what you would do with it. I mean, I understand why the strap can't be replaced. There are actually buttons built into it, above and below the watch face, that control the backlight and the main menu. But honestly, I don't really like this implementation anyway. The touch points are not clearly marked, and they're both small enough that I often miss them when casually reaching for them, while being big enough that I often hit them accidentally when I'm adjusting the watch on my wrist or using the touchscreen. But I could accept the non-replaceable strap buttons if Qualcomm would at least let me configure their functionality. The backlight could easily be handled by the onboard accelerometer with motion control like the Pebble, or even a sharp tap anywhere on the device, and menu could be handled by, I don't know, swiping in from a side or the top, or a long user configurable tap and hold, or even left the way it is. Then I could bind those buttons to something else or nothing at all. Just give me the option. Overall though, it's a really cool device and I genuinely want it to succeed. But the bad news is that the software really needs some work, which would be fine, except that I'm just not sure that I feel like they're focused on the right things right now. 4 days before filming this, they added a half-hearted activity monitor to it, presumably because that's trendy right now. But there are still other outstanding issues that range from profoundly problematic, like the fact that I can only preview my emails rather than read them, all the way down to small things that are just amusing, like the way it puts an apostrophe and a small O rather than a 0 in for the time on some of the watch faces. And I'm just kind of sitting there going like, Qualcomm, it's 2 o'clock, but it's not 2:05. It made me feel like an Irishman was reading the time to me whenever I was looking at my watch. But there is good news. It could be worse. At least the vast majority of my complaints can be fixed through software updates. They can, as long as they go in the right direction. It's just that I feel like it's going to be hard to sell a fixed device when every review of it is based on the flawed earlier software revision. For Qualcomm's own sake, and for the sake of their early adopters, I wish they had refined this stuff first, or at least been more competitive on the price. At $350, it's $100 more than a Pebble Steel with its more mature app ecosystem, but it does at least offer a color display. So there's that. It's more than a Galaxy Gear, which has abysmal battery life. This one doesn't. I easily got 5 days out of it. But the Gear does offer a wider range of functionality with its camera, speaker, microphone, etc. And consider this, at $350, these aren't really similar products, but I can't ignore that we're getting pretty close to just buying some other luxury electronic toy like a PlayStation 4 or a 32 gig Nexus 5. I mean, this is a next-gen gaming system we're talking about, or a full-fledged smartphone with a 1080p display, premium processor, from Qualcomm no less, wireless charging, the whole 9 yards. Overall, I like the Toq, and I think it has potential, but in its current state, if I've got a finite amount of money to spend, Toq will have a hard time winning it from me. Guys, thanks for watching my Toq review. Like and share the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you disliked it. I promise not to suffer an emotional collapse if you dislike my video. And leave a comment either here or in the Linus Tech Tips forum linked in the video description if you want to discuss this product with other viewers, or if you have constructive criticism for me and my team. If you have no constructive criticism at all and you thought the video was perfect, then there's no pressure, but the video description also has a support link with options to check out our sponsors, buy t-shirts, give us a monthly contribution, or give us a kickback when you buy random junk on Amazon. So please, guys, do check that out if you enjoy our videos. It helps us out a whole bunch. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.